Prana, Samana, Apana, Udana, and Vyana. It's your prefrontal cortex and give rise to a metacognitive intelligence. So from a reptilian brain to having a neocortex holds us inside this matrix and stabilizes time.
Word from Sanskrit, it's called prana.
These are some very deep and interesting topics that we are going to be discussing about, and that happens without any agenda.
Hi Ajay, hope you're doing great. Welcome to the first podcast of the series titled Life, Spirituality and Divinity. So we'll be starting to explore the idea and knowledge behind what life is, what spirituality is, and what divinity is through a journey of understandings. From where does the life start to exist and how does it cease to exist? And of all the living creatures on the planet, a human has the capability to journey through a life of spiritual attainment and at the end to achieve the highest possibility, that is a divine realm. So before digging any further, I would like to know about your history, what you have done all your life and how did you come about into the life of spirituality. Please introduce yourself to the group. Thank you.
Hello, Kiran. I hope you're doing well today. Life, spirituality, and divinity. Wow. So these are some very deep and interesting topics that we are going to be discussing about. So let us start with life. What is life? It is a beautiful question to which a lot of spiritual seekers out there are still trying to find an answer to. Well, let us try to understand what life is. So life, in my opinion, in simple words, is a phenomenon that happens without any agenda. So, what is experiencing life? We are a consciousness. So, we are a consciousness that is experiencing the energy around us. So, that is exactly what life is. Nothing more than that. So, what is energy and what is consciousness? So energy is everything that you see. Energy creates this illusion that we are existing right now in. So energy creates this illusion of a reality and holds us inside this matrix and stabilizes time with the power of these 5 elements with which our body and everything around us is made of. So it's simple as that. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is that single line in which everything is existing in an equilibrium. So it doesn't have any feature. Consciousness is one thing that a lot of spiritual seekers out there are still trying to understand. Everything around you is very conscious, and our consciousness is upgrading itself, not just ours. Everything that is conscious around us is upgrading itself and striving its very best to become its greatest version. Even an atom, if you pick an atom, it is striving its level best to become its greatest version. So naturally, what happens here is that years and years of evolution, and then we have come so far to become a human being. You see how we have evolved from a reptilian brain to having a neocortex, which is capable of having the deep metacognitive level of intelligence. It is very interesting. It's a beautiful phenomena. It is the biggest proof to the fact that consciousness is constantly trying its level best to upgrade itself, and it has reached so far that we have started even exploring what's beyond life and what is spirituality. Talking about my history, I've always had this longing to understand what life is. From my childhood, I always wanted to know what life is, and I always had this feeling from deep within me that there exists something beyond, and I had that longing to seek, and here I am. In fact, spirituality is a topic that has no end to. No matter how much you try to dive deep into, you never find its bottom because it's a vast ocean that is immeasurable.
The first question that I would like to ask you is, what is life energy?
Now, talking about the life force or the life energy, what is the most powerful energy in our body? If you ask yourself, what is your answer? It is, of course, our sexual energy. There is no energy that is more powerful than sexual energy. It is the energy that is even capable of creating a new human being that is just like you. So that is the creative energy, and it lies dormant at the base of your spine.
You see, interestingly, the words life energy and breath both resemble one word from Sanskrit. It's called prana, and we would like to discuss as much as possible into this topic, and simultaneously what is breath, because interestingly and surprisingly that what we have been taught since our childhood till today is the idea of breath itself is intake of oxygen, and through that a human body or any other living being survives. But it isn't so entirely. So I would like you to explain the knowledge behind life energy and breath, and how both of them are actually related to each other.
What is prana? It's a beautiful question. Like what we discussed before, our consciousness is constantly trying its best to become its greatest version by experiencing energy. So, even the very air that you breathe is a form of energy that is giving rise or keeping this reality intact. So, that form of energy which keeps this reality intact with the power of air is what you call prana. So, when you breathe in the energy that is called prana, and that makes you or helps you to sustain this reality in this realm. So, that is one way how we can understand what prana is. Now, there are different airs or different vayus that our body holds, and there are 10 of them, in which 5 of them are very important. Namely, in Hindu mythology or the Hindu way of understanding, they have named them as prana, samana, apana, udana, and vyana. So these are the 5 different vayus that make of us, or that is produced from the element of air in our body.
That's great to know, Ajay. Now let's dig deeper into the topic life, spirituality, and divinity. So, the idea of this podcast series is to understand what life is, and through spirituality, how a human can actually attain divinity.
Now, talking about divinity is everything that is conscious. So, consciousness itself is divine. Now, the divinity is constantly manifesting through you. So, what's happening here is that the consciousness of yours is a strand that came off from the single line of the divine consciousness. So naturally, you are a strand of the divinity. And that is exactly why you are here to experience energy. And you are a divine being that is experiencing another divinity. So now talking about the divine consciousness and how to experience a glimpse of the divine consciousness. You see, like what we discussed before, the greatest energy that is lying in your body is your sexual energy. It is a creative energy. So when you use this sexual energy with the power of your prana, or the energy that you absorb from your surrounding, and when you sublime it to the top of your head through your spine by an alchemy, you are going to experience a glimpse of the divine consciousness. So what happens here is that the sexual energy, being the creative energy sublimed inwards, will give rise to the insular cortex in your brain, which is very degenerated right now. So it is a long process, because you see, as you practice these alchemies, or there are many yogic techniques, gradually what happens inside your body is that there's a lot of biological changes that's going to take place, and it includes neurogenesis in your brain. So as your brain develops, there are some hidden cortexes that are never touched, and these cortexes are activated, which then connects you and activates your prefrontal cortex and give rise to a metacognitive intelligence. So with metacognitive intelligence, you will constantly be in a state where you are close to experiencing the divinity. So, and then the super consciousness will just be a single step away from you. So that is why a lot of yogis out there are directly in touch with the divinity. So everything divine is energy itself, and there is nothing supernatural, and there is no rocket science in here. Understanding divinity is not a belief, it is an experience. So if you try to understand and make out and dive deep into seeking the truth, there is nothing that is more precious and more beautiful and more valuable than knowing the divine knowledge itself. So this is one reason why I recommend people to at least keep a little bit of their time to understand what divinity is, or what spirituality is. And it is going to be a beautiful journey about understanding yourself and who you are and what is life.
I would like to know how life energy actually comes to exist, and how does it recycle itself to support all the living organisms in the planet, and how does a human body take in the life energy and utilizes it to survive and to grow.
So life energy, or the sexual energy, being the strongest energy in our body, is a force that's constantly pushing our consciousness to thrive and become its greatest version. So consciousness as it is has no features and it has no motivation. All living organism out there has this life energy which pushes them to become their greatest version, and also to reproduce and create an offspring so that they can continue to thrive and have the replicas. So it's a beautiful phenomenon, and constantly adaptation take place, evolution take place, and all these things happen because of this life force. So that is all about what and how life force helps to recycle the energy and sustain this beautiful phenomenon called life in this reality of an illusion. So thank you so much for listening to this beautiful podcast. We are definitely going to dive deep and deep into this with scientific proof and evidences so that you can take away something of your interest and encouragement. So please don't forget to like and subscribe and click on the bell button up there so that you get to have our upcoming videos in the notification. Thank you. Namaste.